From everything that I've read or heard, the Trump impeachment inquiry or investigation was based on Trump using a quid pro quo for a favor, if you will. Basically, he was asking Ukraine to investigate the Bidens in exchange for money, which is a quid pro quo. And this is the entire thing that Democrats hang their hat on, is this quid pro quo. Now, one thing I should point out is it is the job of the executive branch to enforce our laws. This includes possible investigations even into political opponents, because being a political opponent does not give you immunity. If you don't believe that, then why was there an investigation into Trump from the Obama administration? See what I'm saying? So being a political candidate and being an opposing candidate doesn't give you immunity from suspected crimes. And investigating those crimes is literally the job of the executive branch. Donald Trump is the lead of the executive branch. So when he asks for help in an investigation into possible crimes involving one of his political opponents, it doesn't mean anything. This is nothing but smoke and mirrors from Democrats, and they know it. Because, like I said, it is literally the job of the executive branch, which Donald Trump is the head of, to investigate and enforce our laws. It's that simple.
Jordan. Thank the gentleman for yielding. Ambassador Taylor, thank you for being here. AIDS held up on July 18th. Is that right?
All right, so I'm going to be pausing this periodically to highlight facts, okay? So here he specifically says July the 18th is when the money was withheld. And you'll hear the response from the ambassador saying that's when he found out about it, okay? But just to be clear, I want to focus on the date, July the 18th.
That's when I first heard about it, Mr.
And then it's released, Ambassador Taylor, on September 11th. And we know that from your deposition, in those 55 days that aid is delayed, you met with President Zelensky 3 times. The first one was July 26th, the day after the famous call now between President Trump and President Zelensky.
Okay, so second point here is Jim Jordan points out that the first meeting was on the 26th, the day after Trump had his phone call with the Ukrainian president, obviously on the 25th. So, again, the ambassador meets with the president of Ukraine one day after he and the President Trump talked on the phone.
President Zelensky meets with you, Ambassador Volker, and Ambassador Sondland. And again, according to your deposition, your testimony, there was no linkage of security assistance dollars to investigating Burisma or the Bidens. Second meeting is August 27th.
The second meeting occurs on August 27th. That is very important as well. So that's 2 meetings. Keep in mind, Trump and the Ukrainian president have a phone call on July 25th. The ambassador meets with the Ukrainian president on July 26th, one day later. And he meets with the ambassador meets with the Ukrainian president again on August 27th.
Again, in this 55-day time frame, second meeting is August 27th. President Zelensky meets with you and Ambassador Bolton and others. And again, there's no linkage of dollars, security assistance dollars, to an investigation of the Bidens. Then, of course, the third meeting is September 5th.
There was a third meeting, September 5th. And there was a key event that took place between August 27th the second meeting, and September 5th, the third meeting. And that key event was on August 29th, 2 days after the second meeting. Politico released an article about the quid pro quo, that Trump was withholding funds from Ukraine for this investigation into Biden. Okay, so that's very important. So between the 27th and the 5th, Politico released an article basically framing up the quid pro quo.
President Zelensky meets with you and Senators Johnson and Murphy. And once again, there was no linkage of security assistance dollars to an investigation of Burisma or the Bidens. 3 meetings with the president of Ukraine, the new president, and no linkage. That's accurate?
Mr. Jordan, it's certainly accurate on the first two meetings, because to my knowledge, the Ukrainians were not aware of the hold on assistance until the 29th of August.
So the Politico article.
Political article.
According to the definition, quid pro quo is an exchange of something, or the expected exchange. Everybody understands with common sense that's what it is. It is the exchange or the expected exchange of something for something. That is a quid pro quo. I give you something, you give me something in return. Now, or I tell you that I'm going to give you something. Now, in this case, it would be Trump telling the Ukrainians that he is going to withhold something in exchange for something, just like Joe Biden did. Okay? Joe Biden basically told the Ukrainian government, in order to get the $1 billion, they were going to have to fire the prosecutor.
I remember going over convincing our team or others to convincing us that we should be providing for loan guarantees. And I went over, I guess, the 12th, 13th time to Kyiv, and I was supposed to announce that there was another $1 billion loan guarantee. And I had gotten a commitment from Poroshenko and from Yatsenyuk that they would take action against the state prosecutor, and they didn't. So they said they were walking out to press conference. I said, no, I'm not going to, we're not going to give you the $1 billion. They said, you have no authority. You're not the president. The president said. I said, call him. I said, I'm telling you, you're not getting the $1 billion. I said, you're not getting the $1 billion. I'm going to be leaving here. And I think it was, 6 hours? I said, I'm leaving in 6 hours. If the prosecutor's not fired, you're not getting the money. Oh, son of a bitch. You got fired. If the prosecutor's not fired, you're not getting the money. If the prosecutor's not fired, you're not getting the money.
Now, that is most definitely a quid pro quo. That is the expected exchange of money for a deed or an act. In order to apply it to Trump, he would have to have told the Ukrainians that he was withholding this money in exchange for an investigation. But according to the ambassador's testimony, he didn't even think they knew their money was being withheld. How can you have an exchange or an expected exchange if Trump never told them that he was withholding the money? In other words, the conversation between Trump and the president of Ukraine, Trump would have had to have said, you will get your money once you start the investigation. And at that point, the Ukrainians would have definitely have known their money was being withheld. They didn't know. That means Trump did not use that money as leverage. Trump did not promise the Ukrainian president money for the exchange of an investigation.
The third meeting that you mentioned with the Senators Murphy and Senator Johnson, There was discussion of the security assistance, but
No linkage.
but there was not discussion of linkage.
3 meetings face to face with President Zelensky, no linkage. Yet, in your deposition, you said this, and you said it again the first hour of the majority. My clear understanding was security assistance money would not come until President Zelensky committed to pursue the investigation. My clear understanding was they weren't going to get the money until President Zelensky committed to pursue the investigations. Now, with all due respect, Ambassador, your clear understanding was obviously wrong because it didn't happen. President Zelensky didn't announce he was going to investigate Burisma or the Bidens. He didn't do a press conference and say, I'm going to investigate the Bidens, we're going to investigate Burisma. He didn't tweet about it, and you just told the ranking member he didn't do the CNN interview and announce he's going to investigate Burisma or the Bidens. So 3 face-to-face meetings, it doesn't come up, no linkage whatsoever. President Zelensky doesn't announce it before the aid is released on the 11th. And yet you said you have a clear understanding that those 2 things were going to happen. The money was going to get released, but not until there was an investigation, and that, in fact, didn't happen. So what I'm wondering is, where did you get this clear understanding?
As I testified, Mr. Jordan, this came from Ambassador Sondland.
Well, can you hold 1 second, Ambassador? I'm going to bring you a piece of paper from Ambassador Sondland's statement.
Very good.
And you can take a look at this. Go ahead, though. I want to let you finish.
So, Mr. Jordan, should I read this or?
No, I just want you to have it because I'm going to read it.
Oh, very good, very good.
Yeah, but I wanted you to go ahead and finish. You said, Ambassador, you got this from Ambassador Sondland.
That is correct. Ambassador Sondland also said that he talked to President Zelensky and Mr. Yermak and had told them that although this was not a quid pro quo, if President Zelensky did not clear things up in public, we would be at a stalemate. That was one point. It was also the case.
Mr. Morrison talked to you, right?
No, what I was going to say is Ambassador Sondland also told me that he recognized that it was a mistake to have told the Ukrainians that only the meeting with the president in the Oval Office was held up on in order to get these investigations. No, it was not just the meeting; it was also the security system. That is everything was. So those two discussions.
No, I understand.
Okay.
All right. So again, just to recap, you had 3 meetings with President Zelensky. No linkage in those 3 meetings came up. Ambassador Zelensky didn't announce that he was going to do any investigation of the Bidens or Burismas before the aid was released. He didn't do a tweet, didn't do anything on CNN, didn't do any of that. President Zelensky, excuse me.
Right.
And then what you have in front of you is an addendum that Mr. Sondland made to his testimony that we got a couple weeks ago. It says, Declaration of Ambassador Gordon Sondland. I, Gordon Sondland, do hereby swear and affirm as follows. I want you to look at point number 2, bullet point number 2, second sentence. Ambassador Taylor recalls that Mr. Morrison told Ambassador Taylor that I told Mr. Morrison that I conveyed this message to Mr. Yermak on September 1st, 2019 in connection with Vice President Pence's visit to Warsaw and a meeting with President Zelensky. Now, this is his clarification. Let me read it one more time. Ambassador Taylor recalls that Mr. Morrison told Ambassador Taylor that I told Mr. Morrison that I conveyed this message to Mr. Yermak on September 1st, 2019 in connection with Vice President Pence's visit to Warsaw and a meeting with President Zelensky. We got 6 people having 4 conversations in one sentence, and you just told me this is where you got your clear understanding.
Holy crap, that sounds like an REO Speedwagon song. I heard it from a friend who, I heard it from a friend who, I heard it from another. What the Democrats have cast their whole thing, this whole impeachment process, on a person told another person who told another person who told another person who told another person who thought that this person was saying it to another person. Are you fucking kidding me? What the fuck? Name one court, just one, that would allow some ridiculous ass shit like that. I heard it from a person who heard it from a person who heard it from a person who heard it from another person who thought I told that person something. What? Like, seriously? This is their case. And they're wasting money on this. Ignore if it was fifth hand or sixth hand information. The fact that the Ukrainians, according to the ambassador, didn't even know. And he had personal. Now, here's the key thing. He had personal one-on-one meetings. Like, he was there. It's not like this. He said, she said, he said, somebody else said. No, he actually met with the Ukrainian president, and his testimony is, to his knowledge, they didn't even know that the money was being withheld. That is the entire argument. That is their entire case. If Trump never promised to release money that was being withheld for an investigation, there is no quid pro quo. And since the ambassador is saying that they didn't even know that the money was being withheld, then there is no way that Trump could have used that as a means to achieve the investigation. He couldn't have used it as leverage if they didn't even know it was being withheld. See, when Biden did it, he was using the $1 billion as leverage to get the prosecutor fired. But when it comes to Trump, the Ukrainians didn't even know. Oh, how fucking stupid can Democrats be?
Which, I mean, even though you had 3 opportunities with President Zelensky for him to tell you, you know what? We're going to do these investigations to get the aid. Didn't tell you 3 different times. Never makes an announcement. Never tweets about it. Never does a CNN interview. Ambassador, you weren't on the call, were you? You didn't listen on President Trump's call and President Zelensky's call?
I did not.
You've never talked with Chief of Staff Mulvaney?
I never did.
You never met the president?
That's correct.
You had 3 meetings again with Zelensky and it didn't come up.
And 2 of those they had never heard about, as far as I know.
And
There was no reason for it to
President
come up.
Zelensky never made an announcement. This is what I can't believe. And you're their star witness. You're their first witness.
Mr.
You're the guy. You're the guy based on this. Based on, I mean, I've seen church prayer chains that are easier to understand than this. Ambassador Taylor recalls that Mr. Morrison told, now again, this is, I hereby swear and affirm from Gordon Sondland. Ambassador Taylor recalls that Mr. Morrison told Ambassador Taylor that I told Mr. Morrison that I conveyed this message to Mr. Yarmouk on September 1st, 20. This all happens, by the way. This all happens, by the way, in Warsaw, where Vice President Pence meets with President Zelensky. And guess what?
Taylor,
they didn't talk about any linkage either.
I'm the gentleman's.
Or we're not going to give you the $1 billion. I said, I'm telling you, you're not getting the $1 billion. I said, you're not getting the $1 billion. I'm going to be leaving here. And I think it was, 6 hours? I looked, I said, I'm leaving in 6 hours. If the prosecutor's not fired, you're not getting the money. If the prosecutor's not fired, you're not getting the money. If the prosecutor's not fired, you're not getting the money. Oh, son of a bitch. Got fired.